The 49ers just lost 33-19 to the Ravens on Christmas. Here are the 49ers grades for this performance. Quarterbacks, plural. F. Brock Purdy had a chance to cement his legacy as an MVP quarterback, and he played by far the worst game of his career. Threw 4 interceptions, plus 2 other passes that nearly got picked, plus he got a stinger for the second week in a row, left the game, got cleared to play, and still didn't return. Which means he may have gotten benched for Sam Darnold, who also threw a pick and isn't good. So in a sense, Purdy did cement his legacy. Because until he wins a Super Bowl, people will remember him as the player who choked in the biggest game of the season. He never should have been in the MVP discussion to begin with. He absolutely is a product of the 49ers supporting cast, as opposed to Lamar Jackson, who carries the Ravens. He should be the MVP. Running backs. A. Christian McCaffrey gained 131 yards from scrimmage, scored a touchdown, and averaged a whopping 7.4 yards per carry. And yet, Kyle Shanahan picked this week of all weeks to lighten his workload and give him just 14 rushes. Absurd. If ever there was a time to put the team on McCaffrey's back, tonight was the time, and Shanahan blew it. More on Shanahan in a minute. Wide receivers. C. Brandon Ayuk was outstanding. He had 113 yards on 6 catches. But Deebo Samuel was awful. He had 47 receiving yards on 4 catches and 12 targets. Yes, he needed 12 targets to make 4 catches. Tight ends. A. George Kittle had 126 yards and any number of quality blocks. He's the most consistent player on the team. Offensive linemen. C. They got beat up. Trent Williams left with a groin injury. Aaron Banks left with turf toe, and Jalen Moore left with a concussion. Which means Spencer Burford finished the game as their starting right tackle. The Niners need Williams and Banks back pronto or they're going nowhere. Defensive linemen. D. Javon Kinlaw and Javon Hargrave did a good job shutting down the runs between the tackles. Give them credit. But Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and the rest of the defensive ends did a horrible job of containing Lamar Jackson in the pocket, where he's an indecisive, inaccurate passer. For some reason, the defensive ends kept rushing wildly past Jackson and opening up huge lanes for him to scramble out of the pocket, where he's the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL. Maybe if the Niners face Jackson again in the Super Bowl, Bosa and his crew will defend him properly. Linebackers. A. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw combined to record 22 tackles. They had to clean up Bosa's mess. Defensive backs. C. They gave up 252 yards through the air at a passer rating of 105.9. Special teams. C-. Mitch Wishnowsky committed a 15-yard penalty for hitting a punt returner out of bounds. I've never seen a punter do that. Coaches. F. Kyle Shanahan lost this game. Once again, he choked under pressure. All he had to do was stick with the 49ers' best running plays and they would have won. Instead, he came out passing down the field and trying to win the game with one play. That's what you do when you think the opponent is better than you. That's what you call when you're nervous. And of course, Shanahan transferred his nervousness to his young quarterback, Brock Purdy, who had the worst game of his life. Shanahan needed to settle Purdy down, but Shanahan couldn't settle himself down. He kept throwing haymakers and missing, which hurt the morale of his team. All he had to do was call runs to his left for Christian McCaffrey, and if these teams meet again in the Super Bowl, you can bet that's what Shanahan will call. He won't make the same mistake twice. This was his worst game since the NFC Championship against the Eagles when he tried to win it in the first quarter by calling a play-action shot downfield and nearly got Purdy's arm ripped off. Shanahan will have to coach much better for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. He's the biggest question mark on the team.